What's up, everybody? Andre here, and this is the Tennis and Bagels podcast. And the question that I have for today is Alcaraz hitting a wall? Tennis-wise, he's played a lot of tennis last year. He's played a lot of tennis this year already as well. And most importantly, he finally achieved something really big in his career, which is the career Grand Slam when he won at the Australian Open against Novak Djokovic, notoriously also beating Alexander Zverev in a very dramatic match in the semifinals after suffering from cramps. If I'm not mistaken, also that was also the first time that Alcaraz had even gone past the quarterfinals at the Australian Open. So yeah, it's a huge achievement for him. And then he won Doha. He played extremely well. Players have played really well against him as well. And he kind of made a statement when he won that tournament. And then he came back to Indian Wells. And I think that's when the pressure may have gotten to him or something. I don't know exactly what happened. And he lost to Medvedev in straight sets. Didn't exactly play a great match. Medvedev played an amazing match. So combination of these two things. And coming into Miami, he played a fairly quiet match against João Fonseca, which I did a little bit of a preview. I thought the match might have been a little bit more exciting. I mean, it was good, but Alcaraz definitely was far too clinical. Like, he was absolutely almost no mistakes in that match. And he comes in the round after that and loses to Sebastian Korda in 3 sets. And during this match, he was saying to his camp as well, something along the lines of, I can't do this anymore and I just want to go home. That's why I'm thinking that there is some sort of maybe mental fatigue, maybe sort of still is maybe in that period where all of the energy that he's put in is finally catching up to him, all the exhaustion from what he did in the past year and a half, maybe, and even the last full year, to regain world number one, complete the career Grand Slam, finish here in number one and winning Doha and coming in with a lot of pressure in here. So one of the things that he's been saying as well, I think there's a lot of talk about pressure lately. He's been under huge pressure since becoming world number one again. He's also got a fairly good lead over Yannick Sinner. And every player has been complaining that is basically Roger Federer against him. He's not complaining per se, but like he's played a lot of great matches against Arthur Hinderknecht from France. He played some really good matches against him as well this year. And it's just the question that has been coming along is, why is it that basically every match that Carlos plays looks like a really, really big event? And it's people saying as well in private chats that I have as well, that well, maybe Carlos has like this thing about him that his energy is so contagious that even his opponents are catching it. Even his opponents are feeling like maybe the not necessarily maybe the urge, but the that inner motivation just rise to play their best shots and play well, just because the match becomes just so intense and engaging. And I guess that this might bring the best out of players as well. And Carlos has been said a couple of times, even after I think his interview when he lost to Korda, kind of it gets annoying to play all this time against players playing far above their ranking and just shredding, I guess on court, shredding more of like a music term, but just redlining and just playing their best shots and just really at their very best. He mentioned that Korda hardly made any mistake during the match, that he was able to get back and win the second set because he made essentially a string of 3 or 4 errors that he was not making throughout the match. So yeah, it's getting to him. And I think that I get back to the career Grand Slam in here, that he's one of the youngest man ever to do so. I think that winning that and he put so much of his energy, and it was probably coming after the US Open as well, right? I think he wanted to win the US Open and his focus was right there. And then I think after that, after he became number one again and he won the US Open and then he was playing good on hard courts and, reached the final of the ATP finals last year, I think that at that point he was already thinking ahead and he was just already thinking, I am going to try and win the Australian Open. This is going to be the goal that I'm going to focus on. So I think he was laser focused on that with his team. And I think that might have kind of cost him just like that energy that he might need to compete at his best, and maybe just to not necessarily compete, but just to, be more focused in the match that he's got at that moment. And the Australian Open comparison and just the achievement that he's got with the career Grand Slam that he's completed, I think that is very relatable to what Djokovic did back in 2016 when he completed his own career Grand Slam. And on top of that, he won all 4 majors in a row, which is unheard of since 1969 when Rod Laver did it, except in the men's tour, the ATP side of things. And then after that, Djokovic kind of hit his own wall. It relates a little bit to injury as well. He also still did reach the final at the US Open, so it's not like he played a terrible end of 2016 season, but he lost notoriously to Sam Querrey at Wimbledon, and he was quoted saying that some things along those lines that it was hard to find motivation again. It was hard to motivate himself after the French Open, which was a big win. It's been a long time coming after big, very hard losses against Stan Wawrinka the year before, and then the semifinal that he lost, probably one of the best matches he's played against Nadal, and he came out in the losing end of that. So very cathartic for him to win it. And then after that, I think Djokovic, his body just kind of like gave out in a sense, and he did his best. He did his best to try and find that motivation again, to find the desire to play and do his best, and he found it. But that motivation, along with the fact that he was nursing an elbow injury to which he received surgery for, and then he was only able to truly come back and be at his top level in 2018. I don't think this is exactly where Alcaraz is sitting at this moment. I think Alcaraz has more of a case of a couple months, and I think he also mentioned in his press conference that he might want to. He's just probably gonna go back home and enjoy his family and friends until his team decides that he needs to go back. But he definitely left it open to, he wants to spend as much time as possible away from thinking about the tour. And I do think that this might be due to some sort of like tennis fatigue that he's experiencing right now. And there's also the pressure of it. He says he's trying not to think about it, but as I mentioned that he's facing players that are playing like Roger Federer all the time, that there's his own words, which I find was like really interesting because, recognizing just the greatness of Roger Federer, right? Like, and I think that he means specifically Roger. I'm just going to go on a bit of a side note here. I think he means Roger just because players are not necessarily just being unbeatable, just like bringing everything back into play, but it's more so that I think that they're finding wild shots and crazy drop shots and coming to the net and just graded from every place on court, because he could have easily just said like playing like Novak Djokovic or Rafa Nadal, like just like a never give up attitude, but no, it's just like they're shot makers. Alcaraz, the main shot maker in his own matches, kind of having to face players who are, making things happen in wild ways, right? So yeah, like this pressure that he's feeling, I think that right after this fatigue from winning the Grand Slam and fatigue from like being world number one and having just like a target in your back all the time, and I think he says, I'm trying to like not look into it. I'm trying not to think about this pressure. I'm trying to just enjoy it. But I don't think that it's exactly possible for Alcaraz or basically anyone else to play fully without pressure. He's still very young as well. Like it's the second time that he's become the year-end number one since he did it for the first time, I think, in 2022. I think this is something that he might still be getting used to. Doesn't have all the hundreds of weeks that Nadal and Federer had, in which they're like, this is the position where I am actually comfortable at, right? So they did not really want to be in the chasing position, whereas I feel like Carlos has enough experience in being the chaser and he's still building some of that experience of being the one being chased. And I think that this is a pressure that he's going to be getting used to, but is definitely going to be catching up to him in a few matches that he's going to play in the future. And hopefully he's going to be able to find some of that time off. The Sunshine Double is not his ultimately best because, he couldn't find his best against Medvedev. He couldn't find his best against Korda, and players have been playing amazing against him. His losses didn't come off of him just playing trash tennis. Is mostly also the fact that players against him are actually playing some of the best tennis that they've produced in their lives, which is actually kind of normal for top players. When they lose matches, is hardly because they play just really badly, is especially when it's against lower ranked players, is mostly because the lower ranked players just fill their potential in that match, and they played at 110% of whatever they can do. And it wouldn't be surprising for me, by the way, if Korda ends up losing the next round. That is pretty normal as well when you beat a super high ranked player and you're like around hovering top 30, top 50, and then you just go on and lose the next match. Hopefully Korda can still find another win after this, because he always feels a little bit better, and it's just kind of confirmation that you are actually on the right path and it wasn't just a fluke, right? So I think the biggest conclusion that I can possibly get to right now is, how big is this a problem for the battle for number one? How much is this going to affect that? It couldn't be coming at a more opportune moment for Jannik Sinner, who doesn't have any points to defend in this time of the season right now. I think it was last year that he got caught in the doping scandal. So yeah, he has got nothing to lose right now. He's only got points to win. Most of the top players that we would think would probably stop him are out already in Miami. Medvedev just lost today against Cerundolo, and he got bagel in the first set. Like, that was wild. And Alcaraz obviously just lost too. We are probably quoting Menchik now as the player who could probably still beat him, but Jannik is looking more and more likely to lift that trophy at every passing day, every set that's being won and lost. So at this point, Carlos is going to go into the clay season, and he's got a lot of points to defend. Sinner has some points to defend as well. It's not like he has nothing. He's a finalist in Roland Garros, and I think at Rome as well. So it's going to be a tough battle. But if Jannik can kind of close the gap a little right now, this part of Carlos' season where he's kind of struggling, maybe with the pressure, maybe with some fatigue, maybe just wants some time off that he wasn't really truly able to get. I think this could really have big ramifications towards the end of the season, because it's 2,000 points on the table for Sinner that he can go on and win. He's already got the 1,000 from Indian Wells. He's more than likely to get another 1,000 for Miami. And I think we're going to look back at this moment of the season later on, and there are going to be these points where Carlos are going to be going after at the end of the season as well, for which Jannik has a lot of points to defend too, by the way. But, things are kind of shaping up already. The Sunshine Double is not a useless time of the year. It could be more interesting. I think it could be more connected to maybe even the clay season, but it is what it is right now. It is the hard courts. I don't think this is going to change, by the way. But it is, as I said, 2,000 points, the same value as a Grand Slam gives. And if Sinner can get his hands on both these trophies, he's going to be feeling more and more confident. I don't think he was feeling his best after losing to Novak Djokovic. He was quoted last year saying, well, I need to play with more variation. I need to find more answers on court to defeat Alcaraz, and he ends up losing to other players like Menchik. He also played Novak Djokovic, to whom he lost in 5. And I think he wasn't really feeling his best, but winning Indian Wells, he beat Medvedev in a pretty clutch performance. Also kind of had to get rid of Fonseca in that, I think round 3 or 4. And that was probably a good, interesting match for him to as well, just kind of feel like he's not already being left behind by the next generation. If he lost that one, it could have been a huge blow to his confidence, but he got the win, and then he got the win against Medvedev as well. And now just going to Miami, I think he's just on full throttle. Hard courts, fast hard courts are his, his home. He plays extremely well on those courts, and I don't think that anyone's going to be doubting that he's going to win this tournament. And then on the clay season, that's when things are going to pick up again. And then I think the battle for number one is probably going to intensify. I don't know how many points Carlos might be defending, or how far can Sinner get to Alcaraz. Maybe he is able to get to number one before the French Open, or maybe around that time. I think that is a big possibilities that we might see some trades over the number one over the next few months. And yeah, again, we're definitely going to look into this type of this area, this time of the season. And I'm really hoping that Alcaraz's fatigue that I am diagnosing him with, I don't think is going to be something, well, I hope it's not going to be something that is actually hindering him from playing his best. I'd hope it doesn't linger, because he said, oh, the clay is around the corner. I think he's excited for that because, he plays his best on that surface anyway. On the natural surfaces, he's pretty good. And hopefully he's able to get back into the love of tennis, the love of the match, the love of the pressure, and just being his shot-making best to bring into the clay season. I hope that's what he's going to do, because otherwise then it's going to be really difficult for him to compete against Sinner if, on the one hand, he's losing his motivation, and it's hard to find that again. It's hard to find the confidence. It's hard to find the focus. And Sinner is regaining all of his confidence. And imagine that they end up meeting in another final, say for Rome or even the French Open. And then Sinner is full of confidence and Carlos is not exactly at his best. And then Sinner tried all the things that he wanted to do to be able to beat Alcaraz. And then Alcaraz is at his 100% mentally and is doubting himself a little, and then Sinner beats Alcaraz again, and it could be just a huge shift, maybe even for the next maybe year or so, in terms of that number one battle. And Sinner could get more slams in that period and more wins against Carlos. It could really just flip the rivalry if something happens while Carlos isn't feeling his best. All this assuming Carlos is actually fatigued from playing tennis and mentally enduring the tour, which is pretty grueling. So yeah. So what do you think? Do you think that is there any parallel with Djokovic's lack of motivation after his own career Grand Slam completion back in 2016? Or maybe Carlos has even an injury and I'm just kind of not really aware of it. And if you do know if there's an injury, just please do let me know. That's important details. And or you think that Carlos is just not playing his best as well, and he's just excited for the clay, and then things are going to go back to normal. And yeah, what's your diagnostic for this? Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.